Recording in progress.
I probably should have started the video earlier when I was talking that's by the way what we call a Dharma talk. That it is traditional at the beginning of yoga, kind of a philosophical or conceptual base. So I probably should have started earlier, but I will touch base on the theme as we practice. So please make yourselves comfortable. We're going to start off on our back bodies. I was just talking about the importance of recognizing that we breathe not just into our front, but also into our back, that our internal organs, including lungs and heart, are also in that back body. And so we're going to use the floor as a reference point, a sounding board, if you will, a touchstone. First, let's just begin with sighing breaths. Inhale, slow, deep and wide, noticing the movement of fabric against your skin. And then that lovely release. Good. Let's do a few more. I'd love you to notice when you're inhaling, is it mostly a chest rising event? If so, see if you can press the inhale down into the lower belly. Okay, let's keep going for a little longer here, sighing breath. So with that inhale, imagine that you're kind of filling a bucket. Mind you, the bucket's on its side because you're laying down, but you know what I mean. You're sending your breath down into that lower part of the bucket, and then you're watching the bucket fill. And the very end of the inhale, there should be kind of a bucket overflowing feeling. It might fill right up into that upper lobe of the lung, up under the clavicle and near the throat and trap muscles. So here's a really valuable moment to notice. You might not be able to get abdominal breath going. And if that is the case, note this, that means you're primarily doing chest breathing, which primarily will keep us in a low-grade state of fight or flight. And so that, of course, can roll out in so many ways. We were just talking about crisis and loss and grief, and that chest breathing will keep us in a state of not okay, something I gotta fix. So it's so profound to massage our nervous system by sending that breath down diaphragmatically into the lower abdomen. Whenever you feel complete with the sighing breaths, you can close the mouth, take the breath inside, letting it move gently, slowly through the nose. You might add your ujjayi throat contraction so that the breath is moving through that valve of the throat. That'll make it slower, steadier. It's also really great if you're an athlete. But for the rest of us, it tends to help us be more mentally tethered to the breath. If you want to make that even more profound over the next couple breaths, you might just plug your ears to hear that ujjayi wind in your ears. And ideally, throughout our practice, especially when in this relaxed breath, we would love to be able to notice the moment of pause that exists between the turns of the breath. So for these next few rounds, we're going to be a little bit of a treasure hunter, just trying to find that moment of pause. There's that rising of the inhale, wave, pause, exhaling, and again a pause. And throughout, we notice if our mind has wandered and we return it to breath again and again. This is our practice. So again, you are looking for the pause or the gap. You're tuning into that ujjayi sound, the wind or wave sound in your mind's eye. mine's ears, and you're noticing, are you getting breath in such a way that there's a gentle rising and settling of the abdomen? We're going to get a little more active with that in a moment. But right now, we're just trying to find that gentle breath of a baby sleeping. The neck is relaxed, the face muscles are soft. You might add the light connection at the tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth, to bring another layer of presence. I am here in this moment, in this body, in this breath. And in truth, nothing else exists, not the past, where there might be loss or grief, and some of that we were talking about, the fall being kind of the season of grief. Not the future, the things that we worry about, that we're planning for. Just this. So in this moment, I'd ask you to, again, scan for the pause or gap and notice if you can grow it. Notice if you can lengthen the pause. The mind inevitably will wander. Simply notice, return to breath attention again and again. So one of the things that we get to do in yoga that's different than life off the yoga mat is we get to be just more conscious, engage the witness. And one of the things that I like to do in yoga is notice if my mind is wandering a lot, which mine always is, what tool helps me come back to presence with the body? What's my best tool? For me, one of them is kind of commenting verbally on the breath. I'm inhaling, witness the gap, exhaling, exhaling. Or, as you guys know, my little mantra, is there more? That's another way of me staying in witness about the breath. Let's do 3 more breaths, and you get to practice and notice what tethers you best to that witness state of the breath. The next time you're exhaling, we're going to make it more active, as I mentioned, moving into compression and expansion breathing. So the next time you're exhaling, slow and steady, abdomen towards spine, anchoring the low back into the floor. You should feel the pubic bone or pelvis tilt up a little bit. Stay soft in the neck. You might be rolling the head side to side. If you can whisper, you still got breath inside, empty. When there's nothing left, just relax and let that breath wave fill you. And my hope is that those of you who were kind of just chest breathing, now you get that abdominal reaction. If not, be patient. Let's do this a few more rounds. Exhaling, emptying, compression. And is there more? Can I squeeze any more out? Then letting that inhale, breath wave. And at the very end, you expand it, sip in a little extra. I've had a number of people in my massage clientele who struggled with depression, anxiety, who couldn't get that abdominal breath, and it took maybe a half a dozen times on the massage table, but then all of a sudden it happened. The diaphragm clicked back in, and it changed their relationship with depression. Just super exciting to me. We'll do about 3 more here with the invitation to add some physical engagement, because we hold stagnation in all of our tissues. So the next time you're exhaling, make the hands into fists, squeezing the arms into the sides, shoulders down, butt cheeks, thighs engaging. Crunch up your face. On your inhale, if called, you might sweep arms overhead. Oh, that feels so good in that upper back. If you're kind of sore and achy, you might feel really yummy. Exhale again, rock pose. Maybe you want to turn this into a sit-up motion, lifting the upper body, but perhaps even the lower body into your sit-up. I usually keep the legs anchored. I find that I get more abdominal work and less back stress. Excellent. On your next inhale, sweeping overhead and just holding there and pulsing organically, stretching through one arm and leg and then the other. And often doing that can bring on a yawn. Go for it. Rolling wrists, ankles, flexing through feet and palms, pointing. Oh, lovely. We're going to bring our right knee into the belly, release wind pose. So when our right thigh is in, and especially if we can get it kind of in contact with the belly, we have an opportunity for a very light massage for the ascending colon. You can make it more intense if you want to get more contact. Sometimes people put a pillow in between, or you can stick your left fist in just inside of that right hip bone in order to get more of a connection. But also always the breath. So big, greedy belly breath. And on the exhale, you might be able to bring that right knee even closer and higher. Keep reaching away through the left heel, and notice that might bring you a pretty awesome stretch through the hip flexors and quads, areas that were pretty tight. All right, let's inhale and extend that right leg. How are the hamstrings today? Let's point, flex, and roll. On your exhale, anchor that low back, and then slowly take the leg on its descent. It's like you're trying to paint a stripe on the front wall, and eventually melting. How soft can you get? I often feel like a sighing breath in there is just about yummy. All right, left knee in, heels are flexed, shoulders are anchoring while we do this. There should be no neck or shoulder strain as we guide that left knee higher and higher, thigh deeper. Big belly breath again. Maybe you're taking the fist, in this case, the right fist, kind of in between your left thigh and just inside that left hip bone. And as always, folks, I remind you, this is your practice, right? I'm providing a framework, but this is your time with your body. If you end up craving something different than what I'm offering or amending it, please do. Inhale, taking that left leg to the ceiling again, checking in with hamstrings. Woofta, this side's tighter for me. And as you point and flex, you can feel that whole line through the Achilles and calf, or at least a lot of us can. Exhale, root and descend. And I know a lot of people are getting into like fall yard cleanup and all that kind of stuff. So it can get pretty tight if you're doing a lot of that work. Yeah. We'll come right into abdominal pumping. Inhaling slow, deep and wide, as if it's all you'd ever do. Exhale, empty, hold out, and begin. I noticed that in those kind of quiet moments where I've drawn the belly in, if I can kind of hold, I feel a whole kind of rollout of sensation that I don't feel if I just kind of flutter the belly and pulse it in now. So we're gonna do a couple more rounds, and I encourage you to play with your pacing. See if you can find something new. Remember, you're a treasure hunter. And using the hands on the abdomen can be a helpful tool for just being aware of what's in there, right? Unless we hurt, a lot of times we're not very aware of what's happening in our body. One thing I notice, and maybe we'll do one more round so you can give it a try, is I can sometimes actually feel stretch in my diaphragm and lungs, which again, we were emphasizing lungs today with grief and all of that. By doing the, of course, complete exhale, drawing the belly in, then holding and trying to draw it in further and higher, like I'm trying to suck my stomach up into my rib cage. You might even end up with a stretch into the throat. Sometimes people cough, etc. Lovely. We're going to come into bridge exploration. You might place a block between your thighs. If you don't have one and want me to be your runner, I'm happy to do that. And so the block between the thighs in part helps get us awake in that inner thigh and glutes. And this is so important for our core stability, balance, and strength. But I will also mention that being strong and balanced in these center body muscles are part of what also gives us our self-esteem and our sense of sturdiness in the world. So very valuable to wake this up. The part of us that can say, I'm here, I'm gonna be okay, I've got it going on, whatever it is. So as you're ready on those exhales, raising the hips. On those inhales, descending slowly, one rib at a time. And one habit that a lot of people have might be lifting part of the foot. And I want you to see instead if you can stay anchored, really root and push through all four corners of the feet. So currently we're doing just, again, exhaling, slow rise, inhaling, very slow descent. But I'm gonna change it up in a little bit and we'll add some moments of holding. Holding in bridge and breathing there can offer some amazing stretches through the front of the body. They're kind of hard to get except in a back bend. So the next time you are up, inviting you to hold, send your knees away from you or towards the front of the wall here at FLC. Send your heart space up and back. See if you can walk your arms underneath you, either connecting in Yoga Mudra, which is very helpful to get this stretch, but if intertwining your fingers does not feel good in the shoulders, it's too much, just walk your upper arms underneath you and let that stay there. And as you breathe, send your chest up and away from the upper arm on the floor. Take the biggest breath you possibly can on that inhale before slowly coming down. Good, that's pretty amazing. Again, it's the breath that will bring the stretch, that'll activate. Coming slowly down, please bring your knees into a tight little ball. We call this seed pose. Now, a full seed pose, you'll actually make a little sit up and bring your chin towards your knees on the exhale. If that is not great on your neck, leave it out and you can still get a lot of the benefit here. So thighs are activated together, shoulder heads are down, elbows are in, no wings, no shrugs. Big belly inhale, exhale, belly spine floor, and it might just invite you to that sit up without you even thinking about it. Empty, empty. Inhale, releasing. Well, I hear some nice ujjayi. I love it. We're all making a big ocean or forest together. When my head's back on the floor, often I crave just rolling it side to side, and then last exhale, belly to spine, spine to floor. Inhale and release the spine, and if you can, support with your hands, your legs going out into a straddle. So I've got both elbows on the floor, I've got my hands kind of on the outside of my legs, and I'm gonna see if I can get those legs straight and then point and flex and roll. Yeah, just talk with the whole line from the feet up into the hips and so on. Good, and then we're gonna bring those heels together at the butt in butterfly. You can also use a strap if that's your only comfortable way to get connected with those feet. Otherwise, if you can hold the feet without the strap, one benefit is now you can do what I call a little windshield wiper. And I'm gonna do this without a sit-up first, and then you can add a sit-up too. But I'm just gonna bring one foot higher up the body, and it kind of lets me roll out to the other side. Yeah, you guys are doing that, I love it. It's kind of like happy baby in a way. Then if you want to add a sit-up motion, and think about bringing your head towards your foot and your foot towards your head. Yeah, lovely. Ooh, nice, I actually got a back crack out of that. Love it, free chiropractic. Now we're gonna bring our feet flat on the floor and together. And this is absolutely about strengthening that inner thigh I was talking about. So I'm gonna have my thighs touching, and I'm not gonna let them come apart as I raise my hips towards bridge. You will not come as high as bridge. Work those shoulder blades a little towards each other so that cervical spine isn't being kind of smushed into the earth. Raise the hips, do not allow separation. Breathe, hold, and notice a couple breaths. So really waking up that core channel, that center body that again is about being awake and strong and knowing where we are in space, so important. And then slowly releasing, yeah. And you can kick those legs out or whatever feels good. We're gonna come into reclined pigeon. So I'm gonna cross right ankle onto the left thigh, heel flexed, and I'm gonna just wag that right knee a moment, kind of give this hip a little synovial fluid, right? And then raising that left leg, I'm gonna hug my right knee as tightly to the chest as I can. Again, no wings, no shrugs. And sending it a little towards the center line. You know, you can also dabble with holding the foot also, can give you a little more fluidity of like angle. You know, hip stretches notoriously can get us into some emotional stuff, believe it or not. This is where we hold a lot of energy around kind of control and driving life forward and being safe. And so especially if life feels at all out of control. Has anybody ever had that happen where your thighs felt quivery or shaky when something stressful happened? Yep, I'm hearing some mm-hms. Yay. Me too. And it's actually a really common biological thing that happens in animals too, but in response to trauma. So getting into some of these body parts today and letting some of those muscles just get a little more circulation is a nice way to unwind maybe some stored energy there that we just didn't get to process when we were going through something intense. And whenever you feel ready, we'll switch. So flexing that left ankle, placing it on right thigh, and maybe you want to wag that left knee a couple times. Can make you aware of differences side to side if you've got a hitch in your giddy up. Hugging that left knee. Hugging that left knee tightly, tightly. The closer that knee is towards your chest, the more you will feel this stretch, and sending it then a little towards the center line. It shouldn't take much to get you there. Yeah. And of course, please send the breath in as the change agent. Is this side different? What's knowable? In your own time, release. Again, you might need to flex and kind of straighten that leg, give it a break. All right. We're going to come into our other butterfly position with the soles of the feet touching. They're on the floor, but feet are together, soles of the feet touching and thighs opening. And if this bothers your back at all, sometimes it feels useful to kind of lift the pelvis, tuck it, and then reset it. Just notice if that's needed. You can wing the shoulder blades under towards the spine. And this alone is a gentle heart and chest opener. Right? Just anytime we get those wingtips in towards the spine, the shoulder head at the front can open. We can invite circulation into that front space. I'm going to offer the addition of raising the hips, which makes it more of a strengthening practice. But see if while being engaged in that lower body, you can still be in a relaxed state of breath, diaphragmatic breath, moving the belly gently. It's gonna feel a little weird, right? Because gravity's working a little differently on you now. Your lower abdomen's higher than that lung space. Is there more? You stay soft in the neck, the eyebrows, maybe a soft smile on the lips. One of the things that I notice is if I'm scared or sad or angry, my face compresses, right? Everything comes in towards the center, right? Eyebrows down, lips kind of purse or cheek kind of heavy, and everything kind of goes warm. So just changing, again, feeling those feelings important, but sometimes we're kind of in a constant state of like, and that's not useful. And just changing those facial muscles can help us move out of that state a little bit. Slowly releasing the hips, let the feet stay as they are a moment, and just witness what it's like to slowly settle the legs. And then relaxing those legs out straight if you like, and you might want to point, flex, and roll. So we're going to do a little bit of more breath and belly work. And this is kind of like, almost like a bellows breath, but we're doing it in stages. So we're going to inhale through the nose, and then I find a lot of people like exhaling through the mouth with your lips like you're blowing through a straw. So it's like that. I think it's probably similar to some Lamaze stuff as well. But you're going to be, if you want to, doing a movement with the arms. I'm going to inhale, sweep the arms overhead. I'm going to exhale, sweep them down towards my hips, and then be kind of pulsing them like I'm a human bellows, right? So I'm pressing towards my hips in a way with each of those little staccato exhales. Okay, so it's one exhale, but you're sending it out through your straw in little bits, right? So inhale, slow, deep, and wide. Exhale. All out. Inhale. And your timing might be different than mine. It's all good. Keep it going. We'll do a number of rounds. If doing the arm movement is making your neck tight, then feel free to leave the arms out and just focus on that abdominal pumping. Good. We'll do 3 more, and we're going to turn the little exhale shush into a ha, 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. We'll do a couple more. Notice the incredible resonance in your chest with that. You can even take one fist and kind of pound on that chest area. It's amazing, right? To notice how this is all working together. Ha 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 ha. And last inhale, exhale, relax. Maybe just scan your body. Might notice some vibration, little tinglies, a little warmth, I hope. So I remind us that when we find ourselves feeling numb or stuck, mentally, emotionally, physically, just heavy, breath, sound like you just did, best thing you can do is put on some of your favorite music, sing and dance around, and maybe laugh and cry simultaneously if you can pull it off. Freaking awesome. We're going to come into a little more core work here before we move on. And we're going to do the robot, the baby robot, which you guys are familiar with. And I want to just point out that one of the reasons we're doing this particular core exercise is that if we do it right, which is underdoing it, by the way, so really little movements, baby, mini robot. it helps isolate these low abdominal muscles between the hip bones. These are critical for a number of reasons. They support the low spine where most of us will feel ouchy but also weak. And they help the pelvic floor do its job of contracting, which again, supports us, gives us a sense of strength, presence, stability. So it's important emotionally, but also physically. And if we don't engage these other guys, and we're missing this, right? So you're gonna bring your knees into your belly. And then if you would, squeeze knees for the moment, yeah. When you do that, you should feel it kind of curl your tailbone away from the floor a little. You guys feel that? Okay, cool. So nice big inhale, exhale, anchor that low back like you just did and keep it anchored as you now take your legs parallel but not touching, feet flexed, and slowly move the knees away until you sense they're directly above the hip bones. This should be the point where it's actually work to keep your back rooted, but you can do it. And you can breathe, sort of. Try breathing, it's a challenge, I find. I have to be very willful about it. Good, now I'm gonna invite you to soften your neck, keep your hands on your thighs because they'll remind you to not bring one knee towards you. We don't wanna do that, right? If you need a break right now, take it and then come back into this starting position. Nice long inhale. Back is rooted, exhaling, take one knee about 3 inches away from your hand and hold. Breathe into the effort. So I'm pushing my back into the floor and I'm choosing to expand my belly with breath at the same time. So I'm getting expansion on both sides of the body, then return that knee to the start, to your hand. You can relax entirely if you need to during the inhale. Exhale, root the back, send the knee about 3 inches away, hold, notice, breathe. And I want you to notice if you feel that your low belly is popping out at all, and see if you can invite it to draw down. When I first started really trying to increase abdominal strength, when I was doing some sit-ups, this is decades ago, I realized that my belly always popped out. It didn't draw back to support the spine. Not good. So you see all those like people who are professional movers wearing those belts and stuff? No, we want to be our belt. A good movable flexible belt that you can breathe into, no less. Yeah, are you guys feeling that? Yeah. Thank you, by the way. I think you are doing the best I've seen any group do of doing small movements. When we first learned robot, we were taking our heel to tap the floor, and it's so tempting to want to do that. It's a much more dramatic movement. And as we progress, feel free to take a break, by the way. As we come into one more round, if you want to toy with taking one heel at a time closer to the floor, you're keeping the knee bent 90. So don't straighten the leg at all. You're like a frozen little robot knee, and if you're just hinging at the hip. Feel free to give it a try, but with absolute awareness of, are you losing anything in that low back, low belly connection? If you are, go back to small movements, because do we care how big our movements are? We do not. We just want to go big enough to get the benefit. Yeah. All right. When that is complete, whew, you might want to hug knees to belly, or maybe you want to straighten them. Notice what you need. And we're going to come into a spinal twist, and that'll be our last little post for being here on our back. I know we've been here almost the whole practice. So much goodness right here. So as you're ready, let's come onto our right side in embryo pose. You might choose to tuck your right arm under your head, or you could grab a pillow or a block. I'm going to bend my knees and squeeze my thighs together, feet flex, knees straight forward to the hips. And then I'm going to begin to rotate open through my top arm. Oh my God, is there a lot of tension there? And so I might come back to embryo and take a breath and then open again. You know, you're really inviting these muscles to know that it's okay to let go. And that doesn't just happen in one moment. You don't force it and go, here, do that, right? You kind of seduce it, like it's okay. If you get into an open enough position and it feels good, you might scooch your right shoulder further to the right, which will bring you more onto the blade instead of the deltoid, and that can deepen the twist too. If it's too much, go back to what you were doing. And if you want to add an extension of that top leg, please add the support of your right hand. Find a place that feels useful, so there's some intensity, but very safe. And please take 3 very thoughtful breaths. Inhaling as there more. And it really should lift that back arm up, and then exhaling, hopefully deepen the twist, relaxing into it as if you intended to be there a great long while. And when you're complete, bringing the straight knee back in and gently rolling yourself. You might come back to embryo actually, and then gently roll yourself to the other side. Yeah, and that embryo pose is such a great place to think about bringing breath into that whole back body. Again, you're massaging your digestive organs and all those elimination organs too, right? Like kidneys and so on. All right, as you're ready, beginning your process on this side. Is it different? Different intensity, different connection points. And trying to keep the knees connected is helpful because it stabilizes the low back. And so then it feels safer for the release all the way up. Yeah, all these connections, pretty intense, right? Whew. If you'd like to add that extended leg, again, supporting with the hand. Is this side different? A lot of what puts us at risk for injury is being pulled, kind of torqued, and having one side of something be too tight, whether it's our hip, our low spine, our waistline, our chest, our shoulders, all of that. Yeah. Again, find your place of best stretch, cultivate the deepest, greediest breaths you can. And when you're ready, you come out again. Maybe you come into embryo with a big breath. We're going to then be coming up into some standing, and we're going to be doing a standing cow cat, which I really enjoy. I will tell you, I find I can get a deeper stretch in the standing cow pose, which is this essentially, right? So it's these spinal movements. If I really anchor shoulders down, and that's important, I'm not hanging on the joints. Same thing as when we do with assisted, right? I've got my shoulders anchored down. You can see the difference, right? And then I send my tailbone back and draw forward through the heart. The very last bit of inhale, I can feel stretch movement so intensively right through like diaphragm, xiphoid process into the chest. It's really, really useful. So inviting you to hang out with that, you can close your eyes. Inhaling, shoulders anchored, tailbone back. Find that last sip of inhale, exhaling, tuck the tailbone, rounding, letting the head hang. Oh. Continue that way for a few more rounds. Those look good, nice anchored shoulders. And I'm letting my head come forward, but there's no intent to like look up or anything. It can be a really good throat stretch to briefly reach the chin as far as you can, but you don't want to keep your neck there. The next time you're in cat back, do not rush it to get there. We're going to hold, and I'm going to have you take your right shoulder forward and left towards the center. It's like I'm trying to point at the mat right underneath my torso. And then I'm going to do the same with the left. And then I'm going to rotate my head too. So as my right shoulder comes down, I'm going to look left, kind of towards the ceiling. And then I'm going to let my left come down. Right. Is there anybody besides me who's like, can feel the whole line? Yeah, I'm not alone. Sometimes I'm just amazed by my own levels of tension. I'm like, geez, I can feel it all the way from my hip bone to my occipital ridge. All right. Nice work, folks. We're going to come back to center, just one more little cow cat pose, and we're going to use that cat back to come all the way up into a standing jet airplane, rotating those shoulder heads open and down. Now resist the temptation to take those arms behind you, because that's generally just going to stress the shoulder and the low back. I want you to stay in your core power, and that means that xiphoid process, ribcage area back. And you can also look and just see, you want your hands straight out. And in this position, yeah, that looks really good. I can feel a little stretch through here, and those of us who are tight, you'll feel it right in there. But also I can feel all that vibrant strengthening of the back body. And then I want you to see if you can breathe into that while being soft in the neck, the face. You might close the eyes, imagine spreading your toes into the earth, the fingers. And this particular posture can be physically very strengthening, but also a really good emotionally like stabilizing stance. So if you're going through something, or you know you've got to go handle something stressful, or you're just kind of feeling blue, I know that happens in the winter, daylight changing, this can be wonderful. Let's send those arms out, straight out, so we're in 5-pointed star. On your next inhale, rotate the palms up and very slowly make that journey up. On your exhale, it's not prayer hands. I'm going to have you take your hands past each other and see how much you can cross your elbows. All right, and I have you doing this for a reason. Now, you can just breathe here or finish this by going like this and breathing. Or for those of you who can do it without hurting yourself, actually, this is I've never done. Oh, I just learned a new trick. You're like, I have no idea what she just did. Here's what I did. So we're coming into eagle arms is what we're doing, but it's notoriously hard to get there. You need to get our elbow up over the other elbow. But here's what I just did. So complete the little hug and use your fingers to creepy walk your elbows higher. Got that? See what I mean? All right, now you're gonna let your hands go and you're gonna see if you can slice so that the palms face each other. They're not matched up, right? So I've got my right arm over left, I've got my left fingers barely touching the palm, the base of my right hand. These are eagle hands or eagle arms. And if this is just not happening for you, or it's pulling something awkward, return to the hug. Either way, you can send your elbows a little higher and a little lower. And most importantly, you can pause somewhere and breathe into all these connections. And for those of you who like really reaching come along and massage around your shoulder blades, that's what you're doing. When you're ready to come out, nice little eagle flight. Oh, you can even go into a brief yoga mudra as a counter stretch. And then we'll do it again. Let's inhale and send those hands out into jet airplane. All the way straight, then palms up, all the way up. Exhaling, cross your arms the other way. I hope you remember which one was on top. Complete the hug. Use it to scoot. I've never had any yoga teacher teach me this. I might be the first person on the planet who ever figured it out, and you guys helped me. I'm sure somebody else has, but it's kind of fun. All right, so if you're gonna do the eagle arms, then you're gonna bring your hands, your backs of your hands towards each other until you can slice and get your fingers hooked into the palm or thumb area of the other hand. Like this, you bring your backs of your hands towards each other. And yeah, sometimes people end up doing an extra twist. So again, if you get your cross and then you bring your backs of your hands towards each other and then you just slice so that you can hook in, that might be easier way to think about it. Some of you might find it easier to do it this way, okay? And again, slide the elbows up and down. And then opening, oh, let's find our yoga mudra as an alternate. So yoga mudra has the gift of stretching and opening through here. And I think that the critical piece is that you find a version of it that is not hurting your shoulders, feels sustainable, so you really can focus on the breath. Just coming into the pose and holding your breath will give you maybe 50% of the benefit that doing it with breath would. So really key. So if you need a strap or a scarf, just having a scarf that lets your hands come a little apart can make such a difference, because we want those arms straight. Again, stay in your core, don't get all out on me, get in that core. And then pulsing. And even if you can connect your hands, getting a hold of a strap might give you more space to get a different angle. And one of my favorite things is to get enough of an angle, not too much, that my arms kind of go overhead and I can breathe into that. And I am getting a stretch all the way through these intercostals and so on. These are areas that I massage on people a lot that transforms their shoulder health and breathing. I'm not the only one who has had the experience of, after a certain period of practicing yoga, all of a sudden taking an inhale and feeling like a new fold of the lung unfolded. Pretty spectacular stuff. I had it happen to a client of mine who's a yogi, but also one of my bodywork clients. And she had a really big scar from childhood on her back, and we were able to manipulate and remove some of that scar tissue. And she inhaled in a way that she's like, I've never had an inhale that big in my entire adult life, right? So what these tissues do that hold our rib cage, they don't allow the lungs to expand unless they are very fluid. So we're gonna do one more little tool to help ourselves. If you can get your hands in this position, we do this when we're doing 3-part breathing, right? Dirga pranayama. So on your exhale, see if you can squeeze your hands in. Obviously, no breaking of the ribs, just going for it, all right? And then on the inhale, seeing if you can press the hands apart with your breath. Good. Now, this is also a challenge because by putting your hands on your ribs, a lot of us, our shoulders naturally are hiked, but just make sure you're not lifting the shoulders overly. So neck stays soft. Let's do a few. So I'm not moving my hands at all or my arms. They're being moved by the rib cage, by the breath. Is there anybody not getting side to side motion? You all are? Great. Good. Let's release that out, love up our wrists. And we're gonna take one arm up and take the opposite hand and just pull. And what I do is I settle my head into the bicep of that pulling arm. It just feels better to me. And so the way I'm doing it, some of you have your hand on the front, I would wrap it so that your knuckles are all facing behind you. Just see if that's easier. And I'm pulling, and I'm gonna breathe. And I'm gonna rotate my chest a little towards the floor and breathe a little more. At some point, I'm gonna release it, and I'm just putting my free hand on my chest. It just helps me be aware of some of the architecture in there. I actually got even a little couple clunks across. Lovely. Let's go with the other side. Inhale, sweep up. Clasping with that other hand. In whatever way is comfortable for you. Play, breathe. Relax that neck if you possibly can. Maybe rotating the chest a little towards the floor. And relaxing that one hand to the chest or whatever you want to do while you circle that stretch out. All right, we're going to come into the neck next. Anybody besides me, and don't feel that you have to answer it, I mean, it's not a rhetorical question, I really am curious, have the experience of having a stressful thought or hearing a stressful piece of news or losing a document on your computer, right? I mean, this does not have to be deep emotion and grief, but all of a sudden feel like a tightening of tissue up the neck all the way in, like a little claw into the base of the skull. Does anybody else have that happen? Yes? Anybody else? That's a little show of hands, just so I'm just curious. And you don't have to, but. Okay, so just a couple of us. All right. I'm curious though to have you observe, because again, sometimes it's that things don't happen, sometimes. Like, or the back of the neck and the side. So